Good afternoon. Welcome to Northern Maine. Thought I'd do a little video on this old desktop computer that I kitbashed together a couple of years ago. You ever been digging around in your pile of computer parts and stumble onto something that looks like it kind of gets your attention, makes you kind of interested? That happened to me a couple of years ago. So back then I had a different desktop computer here. I was running Windows 7. Of course, Windows 7, its life cycle was coming to an end. Apparently we weren't going to get any more updates on Windows 7, so, or at least I thought, and so I decided I'd look into trying out Windows 10. I've never been the person that was really excited to jump onto the newest operating system. I usually will hold out on my old one as long as I can, but I decided that I'd give this a test run a few months ahead of time just to see what would happen, see if I liked Windows 10 or not. What I found was I have now this computer is not what it appears. This is a Dell Dimension E310 case. It did have the original motherboard and all the internal parts in it when I got the thing, but anyways, it of course that was pretty old school technology. It was made in guy I got this from said he bought it in 2006. It was designed for Windows XP, and it had an Intel Pentium 4 HT, according to this badge on the front of the case. I tried it with Windows XP. I just booted it up a couple times and it was really slow working. It didn't work well at all. I believe that Pentium 4 HT would have been one of the first processors to run the LGA 775 socket, if I recall. This unit originally had DDR2 RAM in it. I don't remember how much was in it. There wasn't a whole lot in it. I think there was less than 1 gigabyte of RAM in it. But I found that I had an old Dell Optiplex 380 here that was just completely destroyed. I mean, the case was all stove to pieces. I think that I trash picked it out of a dumpster, I believe. I noted that it had the LGA 775 motherboard and it had DDR3 RAM in it, so I grabbed it and ran with it. There was no hard drive in it at that time, so what I discovered with the Optiplex 380 was there was a problem in the Keep Alive battery, the CMOS battery. If you put a new battery in that, it would keep its memory, but it would only keep it approximately overnight. If you shut the thing off and left it overnight, it would completely kill the motherboard battery, and then it would revert back to default settings and the time wouldn't be right or anything on it. Well, I don't know. I'll see if I can show you this on this computer screen here right now. But I have a folder here that's got some photos of that computer in it when I was tearing it apart. That Dell Optiplex 380 was extremely dirty. All that white stuff that's all over this motherboard is actually dust. And not only did it have a bunch of dust on it, it was also covered with mold. Particularly in this area over in here and over by this motherboard battery right over in here, there was just black mold all over this thing. I didn't have anything to lose, so I just took a really small, I took an old a fine bristled toothbrush, an old one, and I just took a little bit of I think it's soap and water, and I scrubbed that thing right off, and I got all the black mold off in it, and I dried it all. I let it set and dry out for a day or two. Then I decided that I'd put it together and see if it would actually work again. So by that time I had it out of this case. I threw that case in the trash. I did take these, I took these plugs out of the front of the case because I needed those. Took all the internal components out, and I even took the power supply out of this Optiplex. Let me fast forward through these a little bit here. I can probably show you that. That's the heat sink out of that Optiplex. I mean, obviously it's been run in a really bad environment. The whole thing was completely dusty. There's the CPU fan. That thing just covered. This was after I had gutted this case out, and I had this one all cleaned up, and I was starting to put it back together. When I built this the first time, I put the original power supply from the Optiplex 380 in it, and it worked for a very short time. This was after I got everything in here. Now, I don't remember exactly what I had to do, but I had to make some kind of a modification back in here on the back panel of that thing. There was something that didn't line up just right. Other than that, it bolted right in and fit right in there perfect. Once again, this case is a Dell Dimension E310, and I put an Optiplex 380 motherboard in there. And I also changed out the optical drive. I put a DVD drive in it. And I stuffed the little internal speaker down in here, as you can tell. Again, that's not super duper clean. I mean, that thing was just filthy. At this time, I just basically, my intentions were to test this thing and see if it would even work. I didn't know. This was after it was all built. Let's see here. Here we see I'm installing Windows 10 on it. Let's see here. Take another photo of it installing Windows 10. And this is actually one of the very first times that I booted this thing up, and I was really, really amazed at how well this thing worked. Once again, when I put this together, that's an Optiplex 380. It's running a Pentium Dual Core E5700 processor, which runs at 3 GHz. It's got 4 gigs of Corsair RAM in it. And I got Windows 10 Home, and it's running a 300 gigabyte hard disk drive. And it's got a DVD burner in it. I hope you guys can see this. Watch this, and this will show you. I was amazed at how fast this thing booted up and got online. I think at this time it was running version 1903. Of course, with all the many upgrades that I've gotten over the last couple of years with this thing, it obviously doesn't run quite as fast now. It's a little slower now. But there it is. It reached the boot up. It reached the start screen. There's that. And at this time, I believe it still had the old Microsoft Edge browser on here. And I was just amazed at how fast this thing worked. I think in about 52 seconds I was online with that thing from a dead start. You know, I'm kind of an advocate of recycling things when I can. I don't like to spend a lot of money on computers because computers are prone to getting viruses and getting broken down, and I don't feel quite so bad if an old one breaks down. And I do back up all my stuff on an external drive, which is new, but you know, if this thing blew up tomorrow, I could just switch it out and I'd be right back in business. But I had to make some changes to this thing after I ran it for about a week. I was using it here one night and there was a big kabang and it shut off. What I ended up having to do, now you're going to laugh when you see this because I did this kind of carelessly, I didn't care, but I ended up putting the 2006 power supply into this thing, and obviously it didn't have the right power connectors on it. It didn't have the right SATA connectors to power the hard drive and the optical drive. All it still had was these old Molex connectors. So I cut it off. I cut the harness off of the blown up power supply and did a little re-engineering here. As you can see, it's got some wire nuts on there. That's probably not the right way to do it. If this was something that I cared about, I probably wouldn't have done that, but I didn't care about it. But believe it or not, this thing has run successfully for 2 years like this. I use this thing for my everyday browsing. It's a little bit slow, but the computer's the least of my worries here. My internet is very slow here. I have DSL internet, as you can see. I got 1 megabyte download, 4 megabyte upload. So I could have the fastest computer in the world here and I'd still be limited by my internet. I did have a nice desktop before this one, but it didn't work much better than this one with a slow internet. You wouldn't do any, obviously you're not going to do any gaming with this thing really. I have done some video editing with this. I've used Facebook Messenger before and I've actually video chatted. I actually have a webcam there that plugs in and that works very well, amazingly. And I actually have the Logitech software on here so I can do video captures with the webcam if I wish to. But overall, I didn't have to do any special things to make Windows 10 work on this thing. Obviously it had Windows 7 on it. I had a factory OEM Dell Windows 7 disk that I put onto this thing, and it automatically registered it and registered the key numbers. So when I put Windows 10 on here, all I had to do was put the same Windows 7, the factory code on there, and it automatically updated it. No problems. Yeah, I mean this machine's slightly slow. It lacks a little bit in performance, but for everyday web browsing, it works all right. See here, I'll see if I can get on. I'll go on to youtube.com. I think I can take you right to my channel probably. I mean obviously the load times are slow because the internet's so slow here, but let's see here. I'll take you to my channel. I'll play something here and see how it works. This is me doing my little demonstration video of my snowblower the other day. This is a bit of an odd model. As you can see, it renders the video fairly well. 1988 vintage. As you can see, there's never any, very rarely any buffering on here. I've actually watched Netflix on this machine and I've watched Hulu on this machine, and it works very well. I believe 2012 I gave the guy $50 for it. I'll stop this and shrink it back down. A lot of it. Yeah, I mean, this whole thing, it does basically what I want it to do. This just goes to show you that if you pick the right hardware, no matter how old it is, you can still use it in this day and age. This Optiplex 380 machine would have been built around 2010 or 2011, somewhere in that area. But I was telling you earlier about scrubbing the mold off of the bottom of that motherboard. Apparently that was shorting that thing out and putting a drawer on the motherboard battery, because that same motherboard battery has been in there now for 2 years and it wasn't even a brand new battery. And obviously I shut this thing down every day when I'm not using it. I mean, but it just goes to show you how redundant or how reliable some of this old equipment is. Sometimes I'm a little amazed by it myself. I mean, I didn't really expect that this thing was going to work all that well, to be honest with you. But sometimes you just get surprised. Well, anyways, I'm going to cut you guys off there. Have a great afternoon. If I can find the button on this stupid thing.